So how can IT leverage innovation? How can it help to promote and drive innovation? You know, one of the things we've learned about innovation is that connection is really important. You know, most big innovations are recombinations of previously existing ideas. So one of the things we want to do is to somehow connect the dots between different ideas and domains and different kinds of people and like diverse perspectives. So, you know, how can IT help us do that? Well, you know, without IT, how could we possibly hope to link and connect people from every part of the planet? It used to be that you would sit with 2 or 3 people and discuss your idea. Now you can post your idea onto an IT platform and have thousands, tens of thousands, or millions of people interacting with that thing. So somebody can come along and say, that's a great, you know, start, sort of the seed of an idea. If I added this thing to it, I could make it bigger. And someone else says, well, you know what, we're already working on something that's kind of in that field, and we think if we helped you to interact with this thing and that thing. So it's like bringing all of those things together. So IT really, if you think about the power of IT to connect people, you know, in ways that we could never have even envisaged like 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, it's crazy not to use it. In fact, I would argue that IT needs to become the central operating system for innovation globally inside a company and beyond the company's walls, because one of the big things we want to do today is to involve constituencies from outside the organization. You know, partners, customers, dealers, universities, and get all of these various constituencies on the outside involved with everyone on the inside in looking for these new combinations. So, you know, IT is a great, in fact, the only real way we can make that happen. And there are today a lot of very, very good IT platforms that are dedicated to collaboration, crowdsourcing, idea management, and so on. So, you know, I think every company really that takes innovation seriously should be looking at those solutions. Some companies are afraid of innovation. You know, they think that innovation means risk, and that's always bad. And so, you know, the question is, how do you help companies to overcome that fear? And I think there are various ways to do that. Probably my first thing to say on that would be, you know, what's more dangerous, innovating or not innovating? You know, and it's those companies that fail to innovate over the longer term that end up being kicked out of an industry or become, you know, the footnotes in the history books. So, you know, if you think about Apple, if Apple had stayed where they were in 1997 and said, oh, well, let's be careful and let's be conservative and let's just kind of, you know, incrementally improve our computers and certainly not think about risky things like getting into portable music players and you know, like an online music store and opening our own retail stores or making, you know, cell phones. I mean, come on. Here's an industry where the big players like Nokia and, you know, Motorola and Sony Ericsson are so dominant. I mean, why on earth would we get into those fields? Well, imagine Apple hadn't done that. Where would they be? And where's Apple now? And so, you know, really the biggest danger is not innovating. And I would say that the only real insurance policy we have against the future is rampant and radical innovation. It's not being careful and conservative anymore. So that's that thing. And, you know, if you want to grow, and every company does, and if you want to stay relevant to your customers and to your market, you have no choice. There's no plan B. So, you know, I think you've got to overcome that fear. And also one thing you can remember is that, you know, radical innovation is not necessarily risky. It's like, as an example, Starbucks some years ago launched a customer card where they basically said, you can load this card with money, and basically it's a prepaid card. So you can walk into a Starbucks store for your coffee and donuts, and you don't have to have any cash because you can use the prepaid card. Well, that's an innovation. It's pretty radical because I've never seen it from McDonald's. I've never seen it from KFC or any of the other chains. But is it really risky? Because the prepaid card in itself is not a new technology. We're all walking around with, I don't know, dozens of these things in our wallets, the magnetic stripe cards. It's easy to test. I mean, you can take it to one branch of Starbucks somewhere in the middle of Ohio, and no one's ever going to hear about it if it goes wrong, and you can test it with that little, you know, customer base. And if it works, you can scale it up and roll it out across the whole country. So it's a radical idea. It brought huge benefits to Starbucks. They sold like, I don't know, 10 million cards or something in the first 3 months and took in huge amounts of money in terms of prepayments. But it wasn't risky. So I want to encourage companies to take the fear out of the equation. Of course, you don't want to jump off a cliff and just go into something blindly and hope that it works. And so there's a whole mechanism around taking the risk out of innovation. But if you're too afraid to innovate, at the end of the day, you're going to cease to exist, in my book.